There are moments in life when everything feels like it's slipping out of your hands. Deadlines pile up, people disappoint, your confidence wavers, and no matter how hard you try to hold it together, the world keeps throwing more at you. It's in moments like that, moments of chaos, confusion, and quiet frustration, that the right words can change everything. One quote, just a few simple words, but with the power to reframe your entire existence, to pull you out of the noise and back into control. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Marcus Aurelius. I didn't fully understand this quote when I first read it. I thought it was clever, wise, philosophical. But I didn't realize it was a lifeline. Because for most of my life, like many people, I was chasing control in all the wrong places, trying to fix every situation, every person, every opinion, while completely neglecting the one thing I could actually master, my own mind. This video is about that shift, that simple, powerful, and often painful realization that the world will never bend to your will, but your mindset can bend to any storm. That is the Stoic way. That is the breakthrough I wish I had years ago. If you're tired of being reactive, if you're done letting outside events dictate your inner world, if you're ready to rise above the noise and reclaim your power, then stay with me. Because in the next few minutes, we're going to unpack the depth of this one quote. We'll explore how it rewires your thinking, rebuilds your confidence, and gives you the foundation to rise no matter what life throws your way. It's more than philosophy. It's a mindset, a strategy, a path back to mental order in a chaotic world. This isn't about being perfect. It's about being powerful where it counts. And that starts with the one truth most people never fully grasp. You will never control the storm, but you can always command the ship. Let's begin.
Chapter 1. The quote and its true meaning. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Marcus Aurelius. At first glance, this quote sounds simple, maybe even obvious, but simplicity is the mark of true depth. Because in just 20 words, Marcus Aurelius exposes the entire architecture of personal power. Let's pause and really take it in. You have power over your mind, not outside events. It's a line that draws a boundary in your life. A line between what you can control and what you cannot. A line between chaos and clarity. Most people live entirely on the wrong side of that line. They spend their lives trying to control how others treat them, trying to control the future, the past, the opinions in the room, the weather, the traffic, the economy. They live in frustration because they are fighting battles that were never theirs to win. And yet, right beside them, the Stoic walks a different path. Not because their life is easier, but because they've stopped handing over their power to things that will never change. They've claimed one domain: their thoughts, their choices, their reactions. They've realized the mind is the one battlefield where victory is possible. And the moment you truly understand that, not just intellectually, but deeply, viscerally, you begin to pull your life back into your hands. The moment you internalize this truth, you stop blaming and start building. You stop spiraling and start standing. You stop being the victim of life and start becoming the architect of it. Because here's the reality no one tells you. Most suffering is not caused by the event, It's caused by our response to it. It's not the delay that breaks you. It's your belief that things shouldn't be delayed. It's not the insult that crushes you. It's your decision to carry it around in your mind for days. It's not the mistake that defines you. It's your refusal to let it go. And so Marcus Aurelius gives us this compass, this inner directive. You have power over your mind, meaning you have power over the thoughts you allow to take root, the beliefs you hold, the story you tell yourself in the middle of the night, the meaning you assign to pain, the tone you use to speak to yourself. That is your domain. That is your power. And when he says, not outside events, he's not being passive, he's being wise. He's telling you that the storm will come, but your peace doesn't have to leave with it. He's reminding you that life will hurt, but you can decide what that pain will mean. This is what makes Stoicism different from surface-level positivity. It doesn't ask you to deny the world, it invites you to master yourself within it, to find calm in the crash, order in the noise, purpose in the struggle. This is the true meaning of the quote, and the truth I wish I had known sooner, that strength isn't loud, it isn't control over others, it is quiet command over the one thing no one can take from you, your mind. And in the world obsessed with chasing control, that realization is your release. That is the first step towards radical self-mastery.
Chapter 2. Why most people stay powerless. If you have power over your mind, why do so few people use it? Why do millions, maybe billions, wake up every morning already defeated? Not because life is hard, but because they've forgotten that strength is a choice. The truth is, most people don't live their lives, they survive their days. They drift from one obligation to the next, from one opinion to the next, from one emotional reaction to the next. They're reactive, not reflective, exhausted, not empowered, waiting for someone to save them, when the rescue was always within. Let's be honest, it's easier to blame the world than to build your mind. It's easier to scroll endlessly than to sit with your thoughts. It's easier to be angry at circumstances than to take responsibility for your response. So we keep giving away the throne of our own mind to critics, to circumstances, to comfort. We've been taught that strength comes from dominance, from control over others, from climbing, comparing, competing. But the Stoics knew a deeper truth, that real power is the discipline to govern yourself when the world is burning around you. Epictetus said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." So many people feel powerless because they've outsourced their peace. They've attached their happiness to things they cannot keep, the job, the relationship, the income, the weather, the market. Their minds are at the mercy of every change in the wind, never still, never centered. They wake up and reach for their phones, scroll through curated lives, absorb chaos, and then wonder why they feel so hollow. But here's the hard truth. You cannot live a powerful life with an undisciplined mind. You cannot develop inner strength if every outer challenge breaks you, if every criticism wounds you, if every setback defines you, if every inconvenience enrages you. That's not life. That's enslavement. And the chains are invisible because they're not made of metal. They're made of thought. That's why most people stay powerless, not because they lack potential, but because they never confront their patterns, because they're afraid to look in the mirror and ask the one question that changes everything.
Is this mindset serving me? Most people never ask. They never pause. They never reflect. And in that silence, their power slowly leaks away, drip by drip, reaction by reaction, until their life belongs to everything but themselves. But not you, because once you've heard the call, once you've tasted what it means to choose your mindset, you can never go back. You are responsible for your peace. You are the gatekeeper of your thoughts, and you are the architect of your inner world. The world may pull, but you do not have to follow. And that is where true freedom begins.
Chapter 3: The Mindset Shift That Changes Everything. There comes a moment, quiet, often unexpected, when the noise of the world dims and you finally hear the voice within. Not the voice of fear, not the voice of doubt, but the voice of truth. The moment when you stop asking, "What is the world doing to me?" and begin asking, "What am I choosing to become because of it?" This is the shift, the sacred turn, the moment where survival ends and self-mastery begins. It's not a change in your circumstances, it's a transformation in your perspective. You realize life isn't happening to you, it's responding through you. You stop trying to control everything outside, and you start cultivating clarity inside. The Stoics weren't obsessed with bending the world to their will. They were obsessed with bending themselves into something unshakable. Because once you master how you interpret, you've already mastered how you live. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." And what strength is it? To lose the job but not your purpose. To feel heartbreak but not lose your compassion. To face failure but not forget your worth. That is the strength of a mind that's made a shift. That is the calm fire burning in the chest of the Stoic. Here is the truth no one wants to hear. Most people live in reaction. A reaction to the past, a reaction to fear, a reaction to voices that were never theirs to begin with. But the few, the rare, they don't wait to be shaped. They decide to shape themselves. They trade the question, "Why is this happening to me?" for the better question, "What is this trying to teach me?" And suddenly, everything changes. A delay becomes a lesson in patience. A rejection becomes redirection. A betrayal becomes a revelation. Pain is no longer your enemy, it becomes your mentor. Adversity is no longer a punishment, it becomes your gym, your training ground, your sharpening stone. The mindset shift that changes everything is the shift from victim to student, from complaint to curiosity, from resistance to radical acceptance with power. You don't need to wait until life is perfect to grow. You need to decide that growth happens here, now, in the messy middle, in the heartbreak, the delay, the discomfort. This is not passive surrender, this is active transformation. You don't deny what's hard, you face it. But you face it with eyes that ask, "How can I rise through this?" The obstacle does not block the path. The obstacle is the path. Seneca reminds us, difficulties strengthen the mind as labor does the body. And the shift, the one that changes everything, is the moment you begin to welcome difficulty, not with dread, but with readiness. Because you are no longer asking life to be easy, you are asking yourself to be strong. You are no longer begging for comfort, you are training for character. And the more this mindset becomes yours, the less the world can steal from you. Yes, storms will come, people will disappoint you, plans will fall apart, but you will remain grounded. Because the world no longer controls your mindset. You do. And when that shift takes root in your soul, you don't just survive life, you begin to sculpt it. Not as a victim of circumstance, but as a philosopher in action. That is the shift. The quiet, powerful, unshakable shift that changes everything.
Chapter 4. The Enemy Within. Identifying your inner saboteur. The fiercest battles you will ever fight won't be with your boss, your critics, or your circumstances. They'll be with the voice inside you. The one that whispers you're not enough, that tells you to wait, that feeds your fears and starves your courage. This enemy doesn't wear armor. It wears your face. It speaks in your tone. And it knows exactly which insecurities to press. It says, "Why try? You'll fail again. Who are you to think you can change? Stay where it's safe, be realistic." But this voice, this inner saboteur, is a liar. It's not your truth, it's your programming. It's every doubt you absorbed in childhood. Every betrayal you never healed from. Every moment you let the world define you instead of discovering your true self. The Stoics had a word for this: assent. The moment you give permission to a thought, let it pass the gate of your mind and treat it as truth. Marcus Aurelius said, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. So guard your thoughts like a sacred temple." And here's what most people don't realize. Your thoughts are not commands, they are suggestions. You do not have to believe every fearful idea that arises. You do not have to follow every anxious whisper. You are not a slave to your past. You are a sculptor, chiseling a better future from the stone of self-awareness. The Stoic warrior understands. The enemy is not the world. The enemy is unexamined thought. The enemy is the reflex to hide, to shrink, to defer your destiny. It's the habit of saying, "maybe later," to the life that demands your presence now. And yet this enemy is also your teacher. Because every fear it raises points to a place you need to grow. Every doubt it stirs reveals a deeper belief waiting to be replaced. You grow not by pretending it isn't there, but by naming it, facing it, questioning it, and transforming it. Let's be honest. Your biggest obstacle is not your environment, your resources, or your lack of time. It's your tendency to delay, to believe you're not ready, to let perfectionism paralyze you. But here's the Stoic truth. You are ready, not because you have everything figured out, but because your soul has already survived storms that would have drowned lesser spirits. Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." And the greatest reaction to the enemy within is to rise anyway, to act anyway, to believe anyway. Even when it feels unnatural, even when your hands shake, even when your voice trembles. Because courage isn't the absence of doubt, it's the refusal to let doubt lead your life. You do not eliminate the inner saboteur through force. You dissolve it through clarity. You replace its lies with truth. You rewire your mind through daily discipline. You become the kind of person who sees fear and walks forward anyway. And here's the reward. The more often you walk past your fear, the quieter that voice becomes. What once shouted becomes a whisper. What once controlled you becomes background noise.
And finally, you come home to yourself. Calm, clear, certain. Not because the enemy disappeared, but because you stopped granting it power. The enemy within may never vanish entirely, but you can grow so strong, so grounded, that its voice can no longer shape your steps. That is victory. That is mastery. That is the Stoic path.
Chapter 5. The Quiet Storm Within. There is a kind of storm that leaves no visible damage. No thunder, no lightning, just a quiet chaos in the heart. It brews behind smiles, beneath routines, beneath the illusion that everything is fine. It's the storm of never feeling good enough. You wake up early, you hustle, you push through, you win in public, but feel like you're losing in private. And no one knows, because you've become a master at hiding it, at pretending, at holding the weight of your expectations with a steady hand and a tired soul. This is the quiet storm within, the silent pressure to be more, do more, become more. And in that storm, we rarely pause to ask, why am I really doing all this? That's where I found myself. Waking up every day with a checklist for the world, but no compass for my own soul. It wasn't laziness. It wasn't weakness. It was a quiet hunger to feel whole. To prove, maybe to the world, but mostly to myself, that I was enough. And that's where Stoicism began to speak louder than my own noise. It didn't offer me comfort. It offered me clarity. It didn't say, everything will be okay. It said, you are strong enough no matter what happens. The Stoics taught me that storms are not meant to be avoided. They are meant to reveal us. And in that quiet storm within, I realized something I had never seen before. That peace isn't the absence of problems. It's the presence of purpose. It's the strength to walk through the chaos with calm, to hear your doubts and still move forward, to feel fear and still act with courage. That's what Marcus Aurelius meant when he said, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. It was never the world I needed to master. It was myself. And when that truth settled in, the storm didn't end, but I did stop being afraid of it. Because I knew now, storms don't break us. They build us when we learn how to stand still in their wind.
Chapter 6. The Search for Meaning in the Midst of Motion. There comes a time when you stop moving, but only on the outside. You pause, you sit in silence. But inside, the questions are racing. What am I really chasing? Who am I becoming? Why does all this achievement still feel like a whisper in a crowded room? You see, most people live their lives on autopilot. Not because they're lazy, but because they're lost in the momentum they never questioned. We glorify motion. We worship hustle. We think movement equals meaning. But the Stoics, the wise ones who saw beyond the noise, taught something different. They taught stillness. They taught introspection. They taught that the quality of your thoughts determines the quality of your life. And here's what I wish I knew sooner: that being busy doesn't mean you're on the right path. That progress isn't progress if it pulls you further from peace. that chasing everything often leaves you with nothing real. Epictetus once said, "First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do." But most of us, we do, and then one day we look in the mirror and realize we've become strangers to ourselves. That moment, that still, sobering moment, is what led me to search deeper, to dig beneath the surface of my ambition and ask what it was really trying to heal. Because here's the truth most don't say out loud. A lot of ambition is just a mask for pain. A lot of our drive is born from wounds we never dared to look at. I was building a life, but I wasn't building me. And that's the danger. That you can gain the world, followers, status, wealth, and still lose the one thing that matters, your own soul. The Stoics didn't shout. They didn't compete. They didn't seek validation. They lived with purpose. They aimed inward before outward. And that shift from chasing everything to understanding yourself, that's where transformation begins. It's not loud, it's not flashy, but it is freeing. Because once you truly know yourself, you stop letting the world define your worth. You stop chasing shadows. You stop performing. You begin living. And the path to that kind of life starts with one quiet, powerful decision to stop running from stillness and start listening to your own heart again.
Chapter 7. The Lies We Tell Ourselves. Before I heard the quote that changed me, I believed too many lies. Not the kind whispered by others, but the kind I told myself. Quietly, consistently, until they became my truth. I'll be enough when I succeed. I don't have time to rest. If I stop now, I'll fall behind. These were not just thoughts. They were chains. And the worst part? I thought they were helping me. I thought they were motivating me. But in reality, they were pulling me further from peace, further from presence, further from myself. Seneca once said, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." And when I finally paused to look inward, I saw the truth. It wasn't life that was breaking me, it was me. It was the voice in my head that told me to keep pushing, even when my soul was screaming to slow down. It was the fear of being forgotten that made me chase validation from people who never truly saw me. It was the pride that said, "You have to prove yourself," instead of the wisdom that whispers, "You already are enough." The Stoics taught that we are not disturbed by events, but by the judgment we attach to them. And when I looked at my own life, I realized something gut-wrenching. I wasn't just judging the world, I was judging myself. Harshly, constantly, unfairly. And those judgments had created a prison, not made of stone, but made of expectations, made of shame, made of unspoken fear that maybe, just maybe, I wasn't worthy unless I performed. And that's when it hit me. This is why Stoicism is not cold. This is why Stoicism is not distant or emotionless. It's liberating, because it teaches you that your value was never up for debate. It's not tied to your resume, not tied to your past, not tied to your performance. Your worth is in your being, not in your doing. And once I began to let that truth sink in, the lies lost their power. The noise faded, the mask slipped, and for the first time in years, I could breathe. Not because life got easier, but because I got clearer. Clearer about who I am,
clearer about what matters, and clearer about the one Stoic truth that was about to change everything. Because in the next chapter, I'll share the quote I wish I had known all along, the one that broke my chains and finally set me free.
Chapter 8. The Doorway to Inner Freedom. There comes a moment in every quiet life when the weight becomes too much. Not because it suddenly got heavier, but because your soul is finally too tired to pretend. That's where I was. Tired, but not from doing too much. Tired from carrying everything that was never mine to hold. I had spent years chasing meaning in noise, in applause, in status, in achievement. But somehow the more I achieved, the more hollow I felt. And then came silence. That sacred moment when everything around you is still. But inside, there's a storm of questions too loud to ignore. Why am I still empty? What is this all for? Have I missed the point? And in that silence, in that vulnerable, breaking moment, I stumbled upon it. The quote. The one Stoic quote I wish I had known sooner. It wasn't loud. It didn't scream for attention. It didn't demand that I change my life in one sweeping act. It simply waited, patient, ancient, and true. From Epictetus, freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control. At first, it sounded simple, too simple. But when I read it again, slowly, deeply, painfully, something cracked open in me. Because I realized I had never truly been free. Not in my thoughts, not in my schedule, not in my soul. I had lived as if the world owed me something, as if peace was something I had to earn from others, as if joy came after the next milestone, as if control was the only path to safety. But this quote shattered that illusion. It reminded me that all the striving, all the stress, all the suffering was tied to things I couldn't control. What others thought, how life unfolded, what the future held. And in trying to micromanage fate, I had imprisoned myself. Epictetus wasn't offering an escape from responsibility. He was offering a return to reality. Because the truth is, most of our suffering isn't because life is cruel. It's because we grip things that were never ours to grasp. And when we let go, truly let go, we don't become weaker. We become unshakable. That quote, that quiet whisper of wisdom, wasn't just a sentence. It was a key. And for the first time, I stepped through the door it opened, into a kind of freedom that doesn't shout, but endures. Because once you stop tying your peace to outcomes, you begin to find it in being. Not when life is perfect, but when your soul finally is.
Chapter 9. Living the quote that changed my life. When I first read the quote, "Freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control," I understood it, but I didn't live it. And that's the problem with most wisdom. It reaches our heads far sooner than it ever reaches our hearts. We hear a great quote, we nod, we move on. But transformation doesn't happen in the nod. It happens in the integration.
So I ask myself, what would my life actually look like if I lived this quote? At first, it meant awareness. I began to notice how much of my inner dialogue revolved around things I could never control. What people thought of me, whether plans went perfectly, whether I was behind in life. Each of these thoughts was a small link in a chain I'd wrapped around my own freedom. So I started breaking them one by one, not by force, but by release. I would catch the thought, what if they don't like me? And I'd whisper back, not mine to control. What if I fail? Not mine to control. What if things don't go as planned? Then I learn, still not mine to control. This wasn't apathy. This was clarity. Because once I accepted what wasn't mine, I discovered what was. And what's mine? My effort, my attitude, my integrity, my response, my presence. These things became sacred because they were the only place where freedom lived. No longer did I chase validation from others. I gave myself permission to be enough without the applause. No longer did I fight every disruption. I learned to flow like a river, strong yet unresisting. No longer did I carry the guilt of every failure. I owned my part, learned my lesson, and let the rest go. And slowly, without fanfare, without noise, I became free. Not in a grand cinematic way, but in the small, holy moments of daily life. When I could sit in silence and feel peace. When I could be misunderstood and not unravel. When I could give my all and not fear the outcome. That's when I knew this quote wasn't just powerful, it was foundational. Because in every situation, no matter how chaotic, it gave me a compass. Is this within my control? If yes, act with courage. If no, let it pass. Simple, but radical. And over time, this single Stoic truth became not just a quote I admired, but a path I walked. And that path led me to a quiet, enduring strength. One that didn't need to shout, one that didn't need to win, one that didn't need to prove anything. Because real freedom, the kind that can't be taken, comes when you stop living for the approval of the world and start living in alignment with your own soul.
Chapter 10. Why this quote was the one I needed most. Looking back now, I realized something profound. There were 1,000 quotes I had read before, 1,000 wise sayings, ideas, and truths. But this one, freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control. This one hit different because it wasn't just a quote. It was a mirror. It showed me how I had been living, grasping, striving, chasing perfection, begging the world to love me, fighting every wave of discomfort, trying to force life into a shape it never promised me. And in that mirror, I saw what I was truly missing: peace. The kind of peace that doesn't depend on perfect circumstances, but on powerful clarity. The clarity that I am only responsible for what's mine. My actions, my thoughts, my values, my ability to rise again when life pushes me down. And everything else, that belongs to the wind, to fate, to the great unfolding of life that no one fully controls. When I let go of needing to win every battle, when I stopped measuring my worth by external results, when I began to truly trust that life unfolds as it should, that's when I finally exhaled. That's when I realized I had been holding my breath for years. This quote gave me permission to stop carrying the unbearable weight of the world. Permission to start living from the inside out. Permission to let go of fear and start leading with courage. Not reckless courage, but the kind born from knowing that even if everything falls apart, I still have myself. And that is enough. You see, this quote didn't just shift how I think. It changed how I walk through life. Now, I show up differently. Not with arrogance, but with quiet, grounded confidence. Not with desperate need, but with calm, steady purpose. Not with fear of being misunderstood, but with the peace of someone who knows they're living in alignment. That's the power of one quote. Just one, the right one. So if you're watching this right now, and your soul feels restless, and your mind feels scattered, and you're exhausted from trying to control things that constantly slip through your fingers, then maybe this is the quote you needed to hear. Not just to admire, but to live. Let it become your anchor in the storm. Let it remind you what true freedom actually means. Let it shape your choices, your energy, your life. Because at the end of the day, you don't need 1,000 answers. You just need one truth, held deeply, lived courageously, and remembered daily. And for me, this was the one.
If this quote stirred something in you, don't let it fade. Hit subscribe for more Stoic wisdom, practical insight, and powerful mindset shifts. Share this with someone who's carrying a heavy weight, because sometimes one quote is all it takes to change a life. Drop a comment below. This is the quote I needed. Let's build a tribe of thinkers who choose peace over pressure and purpose over perfection.